All right, so next we have a whole panel on using urine fertilizer in agriculture that Tatiana will be moderating. So I'll pass it back to her, and we can learn more about what other folks are doing around the world.
Yeah, thanks so much. And our first, so this panel is called Nutrient Cycling for Climate Resilient Food Systems. And our first panelist is going to be Madeline DuBois. She is a soil ecology research technician at the Land Institute in Salina, Kansas. Actually, I don't know if that's Salina or Salina. Anyway, she supports the development of management strategies for perennial grain crops. And so she designed and launched the first known urine reclamation project in Kansas in the summer of 2023, focused on land application to a perennial forage crop, and also the cultural changes necessary for the success of a workplace-based urine diversion program. So she is presenting on putting the P in perennial agriculture. So Madeline, what do I have to do here?
Okay, great. Let's see, can you see my slide? Is my slide showing up?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, my name is Madeline, and I'm really excited and honored to be here to tell you about this project I've been working on. So, first, I just want to talk a little bit about the work of the Land Institute and how this project fits in with what we're working on. So, for those of you who are not familiar, the Land Institute is based in Kansas. It's actually Salina, but yeah, it's right where the star is there. So we're kind of in the heart of the country. And at the Land Institute, we're working on developing perennial grain crops. So this illustration kind of shows at the top is several years of annual cropping, which is the majority of the grain crops grown in the US. So you can see that it requires many tractor passes through the field to plow the field, cultivate, plant, often to spray herbicides or some kind of pesticide, add fertilizers, and then harvest. So that's kind of in contrast to on the bottom there, the perennial crop, which after it's sown continues to regrow year after year. So only requires going back to the field to harvest that crop. And then you can also kind of see that root system there that the perennial is investing in. So yeah, the perennial system will really greatly reduce the inputs that are required for agriculture. And then we are also working to develop polyculture cropping systems with those grains. So that's the practice of growing more than one crop together in the same field for ecosystem services. And that's not a new idea. You've probably heard of examples like the Three Sisters. So these cropping practices have been done all throughout history by different societies. But the reason that we are working on this is because most of those systems were with annual crops, not with these perennial crops that we're developing. So here's an example. You can see on the left with the pink flowers is a perennial legume called sandfoin. And then there are rows of a perennial wheat we're working on called kernza that's intercropped with the forage alfalfa. So a lot of the systems that we're looking at are intercropping a legume with a grain so that the legume can provide all of the nitrogen that the grain needs. And so hopefully kind of further reduce some of those inputs that are needed to the system. But unlike nitrogen, unfortunately, phosphorus, which I'm now going to kind of focus on, that cannot be supplied with an intercrop. So just to kind of touch on what you're probably familiar with, but the unsustainable phosphorus use in agriculture. So in an annual grain field like this wheat field here in Kansas, phosphorus and other nutrients are lost via runoff and our food. And so those have to be balanced out by inputs of fertilizer, which come from rocks and from it's a mineable resource that is currently being depleted. So if we hope to reduce our reliance on those fertilizers, we need to kind of address downstream these losses from the field. And so the work of the Land Institute currently is addressing the first type of losses, the runoff here. And that's because this is an image here. So on the top, we have kernza, one of our perennial grains, and then right below that is just an annual wheat plant. And so this is after only one season of growth. You can see how much the perennial has invested in that root system there. And so having those roots in the ground greatly reduces soil erosion and therefore runoff of nutrients that are applied to the field. And also having those really deep roots means that we've seen less leaching of those nutrients from fields. And not only is this happening kind of during the field season, but that crop will be in the ground all year round, reducing any losses over the winter as well. But that means that we still need to address the nutrients that are lost via our food when they're exported from the fields. We eat them, and then as we know, those are largely not recovered. So that is where the P4P project comes in. I was really interested in our main question was, can urine supply phosphorus to a perennial system that would be better able to retain phosphorus and other nutrients? So we have some fields here where there's low available phosphorus in Kansas that were kind of a great place to answer that question. Then we were sort of secondarily interested in what would be the effect of the fertilizers on the biomass and on the other soil nutrients. So to answer these questions, we installed these urine collection units based on Rich Earth Institute's design, and we put those in the bathrooms in our research building on campus. And then we transferred that urine to a larger holding tank where it was passively pasteurized. And then we applied it to this field, to our field with this homemade rig here. Has a little pump and a boom with two nozzles. And I know that that's not really the recommended method for applying fertilizer because of the risk of loss of nitrogen due to volatilization that they were just talking about in the previous session. But because we were primarily interested in phosphorus and because this was just a pilot project, this setup made sense given the resources that we had available at the time. So this is a photo of us applying the urine to an alfalfa field. This was in the summer of 2023. So we applied urine. We also applied the same volume of water, and then we had a control treatment. And this field study was paired with a survey of the Land Institute staff that we sent out both before urine collection and afterwards. And that was to understand people's experience participating in this project in their professional workplace and to hopefully identify barriers and potential opportunities for future similar projects. So now I'm just going to talk about some of the things that we've learned from this study so far. Very excitingly, we did see that the urine was able to provide available phosphorus in our field, so that's promising. I'm excited for future iterations of this. And another thing on the topic of phosphorus that I thought was really interesting was we found from our survey that nearly half of the participants were not previously aware of where our phosphorus comes from and that that those supplies are being depleted, which our study, as well as many others on this topic, have found that concern about the environment and an interest in sustainability is one of the main motivating factors that gets people to participate in these sorts of projects. So this kind of underscores the importance of increasing education on these topics, because if folks don't even know that there is a problem, they're not going to be motivated to change. This is something that comes up a lot in this field, but I did just want to mention that concerns about pharmaceuticals was kind of the main concern that we heard from participants, and that highlights just the importance of further work to study the fate of those compounds in the soil and also to mitigate inclusion of those in fertilizers. One of the main barriers that we had with this project was the lack of policy that specifically addresses urine separate from other wastes. So in 2023, when we first launched this project, we got permission from an environmental sanitarian to do this experiment. But this past spring, when I was kind of checking on things to make sure we were okay for the next field season, we found out that that person had gone on military leave, and then the folks who were there said that one person did not have the authority to grant permission for this type of project. So we've spent months kind of trying to figure this out just because there's no regulatory precedent in Kansas, and it's really unclear whether that would be regulated at a federal, state, or county level here. And that makes it really difficult for regulators to be able to grant permission for these types of projects. So I'm really excited that this fall we finally got approval from the state to apply as an industrial byproduct, but it's really a workaround, and our county sanitarian was not really very satisfied with that. So there's certainly a need for more development in this area, and I think Matthew will be talking more about that tomorrow, but I'm really excited that people are thinking about that. It's certainly urgently needed. And then finally, I just want to end with the fact that this was a really empowering experience for participants. Several people approached me to develop collection units for their own home, and people found this like a really hopeful experience in the face of kind of these overwhelming issues. So that was exciting to me. And then finally, I just want to thank the rest of the soil ecology team, the facilities team at the Land Institute, Rich Earth for all of their support, and everyone at the Land Institute who participated in collection. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Madeline. That was great to hear about that and all the work that was done. And I really enjoyed being a little bit of a part of it as well. Thanks. So next we have Stella Ewa, who is a member of the Life Giver Foundation in Nigeria. And that foundation has seen that using urine as an alternative fertilizer has tremendously improved agricultural yield. And she says, due to poverty and high cost of fertilizer, the foundation believes it's necessary to teach men and women how to use this God-given gift to humanity. So we have a pre-recorded presentation from Stella called Using Urine as Alternative Fertilizer in Nigeria, Southeast Zone. And I think Julia is going to start that presentation.
Urine as alternative fertilizer in Southeast Zone of Nigeria. Introduction. Owing to high cost of fertilizer, farmers have been recording low farm yield in the Southeast Zone of Nigeria. However, using urine as alternative fertilizer is now the answer to this problem. Southeast Zone has one growing season in the year. This season runs from April through October. There is always more rainfall in months of May, June, July, August, and September, with a clear peak in July. In the months of September and October, rains usually occur in the night and during early mornings. For this experiment, farmlands were randomly chosen from the states in the Southeast Zone. One plot of land was given to maize, while the other plant was allotted for cassava. In half of the land, urine was applied as fertilizer, while the other half, urine was not applied. That served as a control experiment, and commercial fertilizer were not used. Methodology of application of urine fertilizer. For 2 weeks, we collected urine and biochar. We were able to raise 4 jerrycans of urine and 1 bag of grinded biochar. These were taken to the farmland, and these were mixed properly. We used jug to collect from the basin that was used in mixing the biochar and the urine, and poured on the ground where the base of the plant shoots from. After making a hole of 5 cm, we poured it. The concentration was done on maize and cassava on half plot of the land mapped out for urine, and the other half section was left to serve as the control experiment. From our observation so far, the plot of land that was treated with urine fertilizer is doing more better than the other half. Now, this led us to teaching the farmers in the Southeast Zone on how to use urine as alternative fertilizer. Among the farmers, 60% happened to be women. We taught them how to collect the biochar using tongs and how to grind the biochar after allowing it to cool, and how to collect their own urine in their homes. These farmers saw this new form of alternative fertilizer as answered prayer, since they complained of difficulty in affording fertilizer due to its high cost. This challenge made the yield to decrease, and with urine as alternative fertilizer, they produce will be great and increase, thus reducing food scarcity and hunger. The difference is we noticed among the crops planted with urine and the one without urine. Maize plants on which urine was applied produced long cobs compared to the shorter cobs produced from plants without urine. Maize with urine had cobs with big grains compared to small grain gotten from maize without urine. Maize with urine had cobs with healthy looking cobs compared to the unhealthy cobs from maize without urine. Maize without urine has some cobs with gaps or missing parts compared to the maize without urine with a whole cob covered. However, we also talked about how to reduce the risk of infection while using urine as alternative fertilizer. This is very, very important because if care is not taken, the people using it may get infected. For us to achieve this, we abide by the World Health Policy on use of human waste on farmland. Urine of healthy people is virtually free from pathogens. Urine also contains the majority of nutrients that are excreted by the body. Its composition varies depending on the diet, gender, climate, water intake, etc. But roughly 88% of it is nitrogen, 61% of it is phosphorus, while 74% of it is potassium, all excreted from the body in form of urine. To reduce infection using urine as alternative fertilizer, the following steps are incorporated in the process. Number 1, storing urine for a long period of time or over a period of time. Body urine possesses minimal risk of infection, especially when it has been stored for an extended period of time. This waiting period is especially important for crops that are consumed raw. Urine is equally treated by simply storing it at just about 70 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 to 3 months. The pH of the urine increases over the time as urea, the nitrogenous compound. This hydrolyzes to ammonia, which sanitizes the urine, and it is perfect to be used as fertilizer. Secondly, to avoid smell, loss of ammonia, and foliar bond, urine should be applied close to the soil and incorporated very well. If urine is diluted or immediately tilted into the earth, its smells have to be reduced. Handling of equipment used in the process. Equipment that are used to collect, transport, or apply urine, e.g. watering cans with small hose, may become clogged over time with deposits, and this can also be removed with hot water and a bit of acid vinegar or manually shipped off. The use of urine diverting dry toilets, UDDTS. This type of toilet allows for the source of separation of urine and feces, through which the use of special designed toilet seat or squatting pan. the urine is diverted to a small hole through which a urine pipe is being led to the urine container, thus reducing the risk of the individual collecting the urine. Urine diversion serves a number of important functions, including reducing odor and children handling urine during the collection process. Use of soap, face mask, and disinfectant. Most importantly, soap, disinfectant, and hand sanitizers must be used immediately after having contact with urine. Face masks must be worn through the process of urine collection and application. I thank the Rich Earth organization for giving me this opportunity to present this particular topic to the World Summit of the Rich Earth. I want to use this opportunity also to beckon on NGOs, the various CEOs, to come to the assistance of the Southeast Zone via Life Giver Foundation, so that the proper teaching can be diffused into various zones and states in the Southeast Zone of Nigeria. Southeast Zone of Nigeria is a zone that has over 80% of the poor people who are just subsistence farmers. Very, very difficult for them to afford fertilizer. So they rely mostly on this urine fertilizer. However, we've not done much because we still have many areas uncovered. So we appeal that NGOs, CEOs will come to our aid so that we'll be able to reach the most remote areas in the Southeast Zone and teach them how to use urine as alternative fertilizer to improve their farm yield, thereby reducing poverty, reducing hunger, reducing human trafficking, and reducing illness. Thank you. I remain sincerely yours, Sister Stella Ewa of Life Giver Foundation.
So thank you, Stella. That was very interesting. It was very exciting to see the effects of the urine fertilizer on those crops. That was really great. And of course, also the difficulty of funding for these many organizations who are trying to do this important work in so many places. But we really appreciate learning more about what you're doing, Stella. So next we have Florent Brun, who's a doctoral student at LEESU in Engineering and Environmental Sciences and coordinator of the COLOS project. After a career as a sanitation engineer, he entered research, focusing on the socio-technical analysis of channels for valorizing human excreta as fertilizer. And his research is based on action research with a transformative and operational vocation. And Florent will be presenting on From Waste to Resource, Using Human Urine as a Fertilizer for Sustainable Corn Production. Go ahead, Florent. Yes, we're ready.
Yes. Hello, I'm Florent from the OCAPI program in France. I'm a PhD student working on the practical, organizational, and demonstrative condition for using stored urine in agriculture. I'm looking at how these elements allow for possible change in the scale of source separation. I'd particularly like to thank several persons here. Romain, who is the project trainee, as well as demonstrators, partners like Gilbert, the farmer, Sébastien, the dry toilet rental company, Moran from the Grand Lyon Metropole, and all the OCAPI team and all the research team who give me the voice today. In France, we call LISA, the human urine manure, which is treated by storage in accordance with WHO recommendation in 2012. It's like urine fertilizer. The Colors Action Research Project is proposing a practice to make a socio-technical analysis. The project supports the deployment of urine supply chain with a view to onboarding stakeholders and the application. The idea is to set up a practice demonstrator with agricultural use of LEESU, starting with the establishment of a small-scale supply chain. This aim is to move step by step toward a large-scale supply chain if the demand for human fertilizer actually asserts itself. Yes. So the demonstrator, the Colors demonstrator, have several functions. Testing the use of LEESU in the field, showing LEESU fertilization effect, organizing a sustainable supply chain. The target is the deployment of a consultation and research tool to get farmers on board and massify the collection of urine. The demonstrator stands lighthouse challenges, stakeholder solidarity, supply chain management, joining urine volumes collected and agronomics needs to give an adapted framework to the practice. And so we ask what to show. So we want to show fertilize with LEESU, impacts on the environment and crop production, and the supply chain organization. So this is the plot and the different technical itinerary about the demonstrator. You can see on this map several points. NU means nitrogen units. It means a kilogram of nitrogen supplied on soil per hectare. LNU, it means LEESU nitrogen unit. The nitrogens come from urines from LEESU. SNU is the synthetic nitrogen unit. The nitrogens come from chemical urea. And SNU, to limit the side effect, a belt around the plot is lit with synthetic nitrogen. So here on this map, you can see we put LEESU, so urine, on P1, P2, and P3. It means around 10 cubic meter of LEESU and 1 cubic meter more on P2. So I will explain here what kind of analysis we did this year. So we did some analysis on stored urine on LEESU before spraying, about agronomic data, heavy metals, inert elements and macroplastic, microbiology, and pharmaceuticals. During the spring, we did several analyses in the soil to give data about residual nitrogen from past culture. During the summer, at different development stage, we count and make some yields on canes, cobs, and grain. And then at the autumn, during the harvest, we make some data and calcul about the yield on cans and tipper weighting. So now I will show you a short video. We can observe here how we work. This is Sebastian, the dry toilet rental who provides for us the data. It's pumping IBC, intermediate bulk container, is a relatively heavy flexible pipe, diameter of 150 millimeters. Moreover, when this one is full of LEESU, we work here only with materials available by the actors. So we have, I show you a second video with, here it's Gilbert is updating the data on its field. You see here P1, P2, and P3, where we made a problem, a little problem with the tank. The pressure in it decreased suddenly after around 70 meters of running. This is why we have certainty about of the flow rate on the first part, P1, with a certified quantity of nitrogen, and then the nitrogen supply is less certain on P2 at the top of the image here. This is probably due to a foam problem in the tank that cannot permit us to have an homogeneous supply on the plot. So following the spreading of the lesion, Gilbert changed quickly the tool to be able to pass the arrow and thus limit the ammonia volatilization. Note here that the climatic conditions were ideal with an overcast sky and a cold temperature followed by light precipitation in the evening of 3 millimeters of fine rain. So about the data on the lesion agronomic features, the nitrogen content of lesion is not very stable unless it is treated to stabilize it. As a result, it varies according to the collection and storage conditions. The demonstrator farmer Gilbert used nitrogen as the basis of his fertilization. This is why it was necessary to have a solid information on the nitrogen content of the lesion applied. Laboratory analysis delay are a constraint on calculation of this type of experiment. Here, too, we can see that the lesion is rich in other nutrients with a high organic nitrogen content around 38 to 50%. This means that this part of the nitrogen is not directly available to the crop and must be mineralized before funding the crop. So there is unwanted matters inside the lesion. The characterization of lesion presented in this slide is carried out in comparison with the threshold values of indicators present in a French regulatory project. 3 major families of parameters are presented here: microbiology, trace metals or heavy metals, and inert elements. First of all, biological risk is under control, as pathogen indicators are below the proposed threshold. The same applies to heavy metal and inerts. Final family of undesirable elements in urine has been studied. There are pharmaceuticals residues. Although the first results are available, I'm not going to talk about them today as we are working on a summary notes on the subject. It should be noted, however, that caffeine, salt, and painkillers such as paracetamol were present in the lesion deposit. This could have a detrimental effect on the crop, but we didn't observe it. About the yields, effect on germination, we will carry out 2 counts of corn plants at 2 different times. We did not notice any difference between the different roots. It was the same when counting the ears of corn. Only the modality having received no first contribution show a lower production in corn cobs. About the effect on fruits and corn cobs, we counted 15 days after the female bloom stages, and we didn't observe significant differences. Only on P4, where we didn't apport supply lesion. Then we can see here the effect on production in yields per area. The humidity rate and the average grain weight. Through this result, we observe a strong plot effect. Uneven yields from intercropping cover crops. Significant losses due to hailstorm, wind, parasites, and close to 10 to 15%. And then we know that Gilbert is satisfied his own target was to have a yield of 90 quintals per hectare for this plot. Fertilization logistics, few words about the logistic and condensation of the practice. The tanker allows a large volume to be able to be applied, but have a risk of soil compaction in rainy weather. We meet filling difficulties, no standard fitting for pumping into IBC tanks with a diameter of 125 millimeter opening, plus risk of foaming, and then apply difficulties due to accessing the plot in spring with a resprouting. In our case, use a sprayer must be avoided because too little volume could be applied, too much losses in ammonia volatilization, too many passes to apply enough nitrogen due to machine adjustment, and too much time spent for Gilbert. An important element is to have a logistic and running interface between farmers and collectors with standard equipment to avoid too lose time to charge and discharge the urine. So as this is a demonstrator, we organize meeting and animation on site. This practice was at the same time the subject of testimony and demonstration on the plot. These activities took place with different target audiences and were based on the analysis results that I presented to you and on other documents, including a note on undesirable and a video currently being edited. So at least here is three key messages. First, lysin, stored urine or lysin has at least a similarly agronomic effect on corn production than synthetic fertilizer as urea. The interface between agricultural fertilization logistic and urine collection logistic need to be optimized. The demonstrator has the effect of an octopus with tentacles that catch and pull different players into a negotiation supply chain. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Florent. That was very interesting. It's great to see all these different projects being done. There's so much being done. And I just wanted to mention too that our farm guide that we mentioned earlier will be updating that as we get more of this type of data can be incorporated into it. So it's great to just hear about all these and our farmers, this is the type of information they really want to hear. How is it working in other places? So it's just so great to see what you're doing there. So our next presenter is Loïc Déchaseaux also from LEESU and OCAPI. Loïc is a mechanical engineer, welder, and farm worker. And Loïc discovered urine fertilization 2 years ago and will be presenting urine application for small vegetable farms. And I think this is our last presentation for this panel.
Hello, can you hear me correctly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I have to share something. Okay, can you see my my screen? So my name is Loïc, and I will present my project. It's an applicator for small vegetable farm, and the name of the machine is Pipiculture. So this is part of Anvil project. The project that Louise Braguet presented a few hours ago. And this project is mainly for community scale urine project. So we searched before creating a new machine to fertilize with urine. We searched for machines available on the market. We could find like really big machines, for instance, the one on the left for liquid manure injector, but it was only for big fields. And we could find also Venturi injector, but it was working only for drip irrigation system. As in our project, we are using sanitized urine, but it was not possible to find something on the market for medium scale field. We also checked on internet or on a lot of website to see if there is like DIY or modified customized machines. We could find some machines that are used to fertilize with a fermented fertilizer, or we get some inspiration also on the Rich Earth Institute Farmer Guide. We had some specifications for this machine before creating it. We wanted to use sanitized urine with a high level of ammonia volatilization. This was to fertilize small to medium-sized vegetable farm. This farm can use a tractor. The purpose of creating this machine is the machine is replicable and open source design. And finally, it needs to comply with European conformity for machines. So we created, in fact, not one, but 3 different machines. The first one, which is with a 400 liter tank, and 2 other ones without a tank on the machine, but with an IBC tank on the pallet on the pallet fork of the tractor. So I will present only this version because the 2 other ones are quietly the same. So here are the dimension in millimeters and inches for the people who are using inches. So we have, first of all, a tank. We also have a triangle quick attach, a sprayer pump, the metal frame, and cultivator tines, and a lot of pipe which are not represented on the machine. The cultivator tines the pipes are behind the cultivator tines, so you can inject inside the soil. Here is the urine diagram. The good thing about this machine is we have only one pump to do everything we need. So first of all, we can fill the tank on the machine with an IBC tank and the pump. And by changing the 3-way valves, we can also take the urine from the tank to the tines of the cultivator. Here is a quick video to show how it works. And there is also the link on YouTube if you want to see it again. Okay. So the test we made, we didn't make any test of ammonia volatilization because it was too expensive and we didn't have the time to do that. But we remarked that first of all, we use the machine on a field with big clouds because we didn't prepare the soil correctly, and we had a lot of ammonia volatilization. But when we use the machine with a soil with a good preparation and small clods, the furrow covered by themselves after the tractor goes forward. As I said, we didn't have any ammonia volatilization test, but we tasted. We could figure it by the smell. We had a bad smell with big clouds and no smell with small clouds. Here are the results of the test we made. All the results are mostly for demonstration. So we had a test on mustard seeds. And here we can see after 3 weeks, 6 weeks, and after 3 months, the results on the mustard. This field was not harvest, it was only for demonstration. And we also had a test on beetroots and potatoes. And for the beetroots, we can see that the beetroots with urine are a rate higher than without urine. And for potatoes, unfortunately, we cannot conclude on this test because we had really, really bad harvests, either with urine or without urine. And this can be explained because we planted really late the potatoes, we had the bad weather, and also the day we wanted to harvest, the soil was really wet and the machine didn't work correctly. So for the future of this machine, we want to create, as I said, it's an open source machine. So we will create different documents. The first one is a guide to explain how to create a machine to fertilize with urine in general and what we have to take into account. The second guide is the manual of the pipiculture, how to assemble and use it. And the last one is all the technical drawings about this machine, so everybody can download it and weld it at home or at the farm. And I will try to translate it in English, so everybody, even in the US, can download it and make it. But unfortunately, it will be only in a metric system. But I think with this, you will be able to create the same one in the US. What about money? Here are the price of the two machines in Euro and USD. We only bought new materials and new parts. So if you use second-hand material and second-hand parts, the price decrease. So I don't know if we have time for question, but if you have any question, you can send me an email to my email address. And if we have time, I will be pleased to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Loïc. We do have about 5 minutes for questions, so thank you to all of the panelists for all very, very interesting presentations. And we have about 5 minutes or so for questions. And as I mentioned, we have some in the chat. If you could say to whom your question is addressed, that's really helpful. So from Rich Earth, I'm not sure who, from Rich Earth to Loïc, what model sprayer pump did you use? We've been looking for a sprayer pump with high flow capacity made from corrosion resistant materials, but we haven't found a good one yet.
Okay, so it's an Udor Zeta 100. I send it in the chat. It's an Italian sprayer pump, and it works really well because it needs to be it needs to have a high capacity. And if you have other question, I can send you all the data sheets by email.
Okay, thank you. Any more? No more questions? Any questions from the floor in here? Okay, not hearing any questions. I'm sure there'll be follow-up questions as people think about this, and we'll have we have another panel coming up with yet more experiments on farms later this afternoon, but we will be having lunch here in the room, and people can stretch a bit. Oh, do we have another question? Okay, so that's a good question. Someone was asking in the chat for, I'm not sure if it was for Loïc or others, when it was reporting urine fertilization versus no urine, did no urine mean no fertilization at all or a different fertilizer? So
in my case, it was no fertilization, because the main purpose of this test was only to test the machine after constructed it, and we had no time to make bigger or more scientific tests. So the purpose was only to test if the machine was working correctly, and for next year we will try to have more scientific tests.
Great. Okay, thank you. And I just found it really interesting to see all the results, especially your beetroot results and the larger beets, because we don't necessarily think of urine as a really great fertilizer for root crops, but it turns out that it is in many cases. That's really exciting and totally understandable about the potatoes not being able to be assessed. But okay, thank you again, everybody, for that panel.
Thank you.